She's the pushy broad from the Bronx, New York. Follow her voice, a straight dog is nice. She's the pushy broad from the Bronx, oh yeah. Don't be surprised if you wanna listen twice. Make decisions, find the right choice. Know yourself better, find your own voice. It's okay if you need help today, cause everybody needs a little push. From the pushy broad from the Bronx, New York.
Hello, welcome podcast listeners and YouTube viewers. This is Ellen Stewart. I am the Pushy Broad from the Bronx, and I welcome you to my episode, Everybody Needs a Little Push, Couples Who Are Thriving During COVID-19. I am so thrilled to have here today a young woman who has been with her partner for a few years and is now in a living situation with him. And she eagerly answered my ad on Facebook when I asked couples to come forward if their relationships were thriving during COVID-19. And I'd like you to hear from her this evening. I'm going to introduce Jess.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
You're welcome. Can you tell me where you're from?
I am from upstate New York, Rochester, to be specific.
Okay, so the Pushy Broad from the Bronx knows Rochester, but Bronx is kind of, very New York City. So first of all, tell me, how are things going in Rochester with the stay-at-home directives in general? What's the town like? What's happening?
It's going pretty well. Most people are respecting it. People are wearing masks in public. They're being really conscious about distancing when we're at the grocery stores, Costco, Wegmans, Trader Joe's. So overall, there's been a pretty welcoming response to it because I think we all know it's for the long-term good.
And how long have you been adhering to those directives?
Second week of March, I think. So we're in May now, and I think it was the second week of March that we started working from home.
I see. And how long are you with your boyfriend in this stay-at-home situation?
My boyfriend works from home, so I joined him in that. So we have been doing it together since it started.
So what does your boyfriend do as he's working from home? What's his job?
He is in environmental testing. So he works for a lab that does soil and water testing, and he sells their services, and he assists with sample pickup and drop off and packaging.
And his first name?
Michael.
Michael. Okay, so Michael and Jess are home. And what do you do now that you're working from home?
I am a copywriter. I was previously at a public relations and marketing agency for travel and tourism. And I recently left actually in the third week of March, right after I started working from home. So now I am doing copywriting under my own business.
So you have decided, is it coincidentally that through COVID-19 you would decide to emerge as an entrepreneur? That's just coincidental?
It's something that's been in the works for a couple months now. As we'll get into, my boyfriend and I have a lot going on, building our own personal businesses. And it just turned out to be really fortuitous timing that everybody had to stay home and I could stay home and do my own thing.
I see. Is there any particular type of copywriting that you do? Have you gravitated towards a specific industry?
Oh, that's a great question. It's a little bit early for me to niche down. I'm still really figuring out what I like to do and the type of clients that I want to work with and who my style of writing would best fit. So there's been a little bit of trial and error and we're still figuring it out and it's been really fun.
That's great. That's really good. So tell me, what attracted you to my ad on Facebook to talk about how your relationship is thriving during COVID-19?
I don't think it's every day that you get the opportunity to stay home all day, every day with your partner while you're both working on building up personal businesses. Myself with the copywriting and from my partner's side, we are getting into real estate investing. So he just bought his first property, which we are now in. It's a duplex. We are living downstairs and renting out the upstairs. So it's been a really interesting experience for us to firstly, spend this much time together, but secondly, also learn how to work together in a business capacity.
Well, it's interesting you say that we don't always get the opportunity to work from home together. And of course, I don't know how we're going to get this opportunity again in our lifetime. And I'm hoping this kind of opportunity never comes our way. I am really glad that you have taken this in a very upbeat and advantageous way. That's a wonderful thing. So tell me, how has your relationship improved under these circumstances by working together and being home all day?
Yeah, so we were long distance for a while, so we had that really solid foundation of communication in our romantic relationship, expressing to each other what we needed. But it's really been a whole different ballgame learning how to communicate in a business sense and learning how we work together, making business decisions on calls, handling contractors, when things go wrong, when things go well, and working together from a more business side, because it's completely different.
Well, that's interesting. You said before you were actually living together, you were in a long distance relationship. Mm-hmm. So explain that to me. You were in Rochester, he was someplace else?
Yeah, so we met 6 years ago when we were in college at SUNY Plattsburgh. So we just started dating casually, and after graduation, he made the choice to stay in Plattsburgh, and I made the choice to go home to Rochester. So we were 6 hours apart. And we decided that, 6 hours at 21, it just really wasn't something we were willing to tackle. But less than a year later, we reconnected. He had moved back to Albany, so we were only 3 hours apart. That was his hometown. Rochester is mine. And we decided that the distance wasn't half, and why not give it a shot,
And how long were you in a long distance relationship?
Just over 18 months. Around 18
months. 18 months. So,
yeah.
Wow. Yeah, there you go,
yeah.
A year and a half in a long distance relationship. And when did you first decide to live together?
So we had been going back and forth probably about a year into long distance, trying to figure out this obviously wasn't a permanent arrangement. This wasn't going to work for us to be 3 hours apart. We were spending 2 or 3 weekends a month traveling back and forth to each other. So we were trying to figure out, was I going to move to Albany? Was he going to move to Rochester? How were we really going to work this out? And he ended up finding a job in Rochester, and it was just instantaneous. Okay, you have a job here. We're moving in together. Let's find an apartment.
And when did he move in with you? Or when did you move in together?
We moved in together, March 2019. So we've been living together for just over a year.
Ah, okay. So it wasn't right before the heels of COVID-19.
No.
Okay. We've been long distance. We haven't seen each other for a while. And now all of a sudden, living right on top of each other. So that didn't happen, gratefully.
No, thankfully.
Way too much for me. It's like, oh my God, we've gone from long distance to being on top of each other. So now you've been used to him for about a year, okay, and he's been used to you. All right. And how would you describe your relationship before this quarantine situation?
We were in a really good place. I think being long distance was really instrumental to our success so far, because we had to have such a solid foundation of communication. You can't, let the little things pile up. You can't let things just kind of sit there when it's going to be a week between seeing each other. So when we moved in together, it was really easy for us to just say, hey, do you mind not doing this? And the other person says, oh, my bad, sorry, won't happen again.
Wow. Could you package that?
I wish.
Would you mind not doing this? Yeah, okay, no problem. Oh my God. That's great.
Yeah, we're really fortunate.
All right. So very, very good. So you said before your relationship thrived very well, and you explained it because one of the reasons why being long distance, you really had to communicate more because you don't see each other on a regular basis, which is really unique because in many instances, long distance relationships fall apart for that very reason.
Yes.
You say?
Yes, and we were very conscious of that going into it. When we were starting to talk about getting back together and making long distance work, we knew it wasn't something that we could approach lightly. We knew it wasn't something that we could just kind of jump into. It was something that we needed to seriously discuss what each other needed out of the relationship, what our potential pitfalls were, and how we were going to work through it, because it's something that I think can very easily get away from you. It can spiral out of control, and we wanted to go in this trying to set ourselves up for success in the best way possible and really make it last.
And it seems you did. So now you talked about the fact that you are communicating because you're here more, and you talked about things like doing projects and renovation. Are things going on? Explain that a little bit more to me. What's going on in your house that you have to put together and discuss?
Yeah, so he closed on this duplex in February. So there were 2 units, and this house is from the early 1900s, and it was divided into a duplex in the 60s, and it had not been touched since. So there was a lot of things we needed to do to make it livable for us. We had to completely gut the kitchen in our apartment. The upstairs unit needed so much work, all new carpeting, paint, details. So we actually had to move in the middle of renovations as well. So we've been working on this house for going on 3 months now, and we just moved in the beginning of April. So we were able to tackle a lot of the biggest stuff, but we downsized from a 2-bedroom to a 1-bedroom while we were doing the renovating in our unit and upstairs, trying to work with contractors and work with ourselves to figure out what we could handle and what we needed to outsource.
Unbelievable. So all of this stuff, you're acquiring property, you're in the midst of construction, you're moving. Did you find difficulties because of the quarantine? Did you find that things were slowing down? It was more difficult to reach out to these people, or did things flow normally?
Quarantine actually kind of made our lives a little bit easier once we moved, because we weren't really allowed to go anywhere. So it was super easy to just spend all of our time doing house projects. It was the perfect thing to keep us busy.
That's amazing. And of course, it also kept you busy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And
very important.
Busy and having other things to concentrate on and working on it together as a team also contributed to having your relationship thrive, I would say. Yes?
Yeah, definitely.
Fantastic. Really good. What else do you want us to know about how well you have succeeded during this quarantine in your relationship?
I mean, I don't want to make it sound like it's been easy, smooth sailing. It's definitely still required the same amount of communication and honesty with each other that we've tried to build up over the past couple of years. I think when you have business decisions, it adds a new level, because you have to take pride out of the equation in all of these conversations. But when it comes down to a business decision of, are we going to hire a contractor to install this carpet, or are we going to do it ourselves? And one of us is like, well, I think we can do it. And the other one's like, oh, I'd really like to outsource it. You have to sit down and say, okay, well, why do you think we can do this? What are the pros and cons of outsourcing it? And really approach it more from a financial perspective of, can the business take on this expense, or is this something that we need to do? Do we have the time to do it? And where does this fall on the priority list?
Well, you have a very logistical approach to this, especially when it comes to your own living and working space. Do you plan on renting the apartment above you, from what you were saying? Yes, you plan to
definitely.
Mm-hmm. Is it ready for rental at the moment?
No, there was definitely a bigger learning curve than we both anticipated. And I think we got ahead of ourselves. We got so excited about doing all of this that our initial timeline just wasn't realistic, with both of us also working and renovating our apartment as well. So we're probably about 2 weeks out from it being ready to rent, but we are super excited to be that close and to see all of our progress so far.
And in the scheme of things, 2 weeks is not a great big deal, all right? Yeah. In the scheme of things, you've done extremely well with that. Are there anything that you would like to improve still in the relationship during this quarantine time? If you could work on something, what would that be?
Probably our business expectations. I think in taking on this first house, it's been so exciting and so much fun, but every single thing that we have touched has taken 2 to 3 times as long as we thought it would. So we walk in with this big, robust to-do list and we're all fired up, and then we get stuck for 3 hours on the first thing. It can be a little discouraging. So I think as we're walking into the next property, and even as we're finishing up this one, telling ourselves, okay, this is gonna take longer than we expect, and we can't get frustrated, and we need to space these things out in a way that sets our expectations up for success and not disappointment, because then it's super easy to get discouraged.
It sure is. And do you think that the delays were due to COVID-19?
There have been some delays. We had a contractor out here. He was an essential worker for us because we didn't have a sink, we didn't have a toilet. He needed to come here and fix that. So it has been challenging working with contractors and seeing what is essential for them to do right now, what needs to wait, what can be done at a social distance, which contractors are even still taking on new clients right now, because some of them are saying no, and some of them are saying, yes, please give me work. I need something to do.
I understand. Well, it seems that you and Michael have gone into this with great expectations. You've gone from having to be in a situation where you had a long distance relationship. Now you're in a situation where you're working together. You've had the added benefit of working on a project. Mm-hmm. Right? So it's not only a relationship, an intimate partnership, but it's a business partnership as well.
Yeah.
And you've been able to maintain that business partnership. Do you sometimes feel that that business partnership is interfering with your personal partnership?
Not really. That may be something that changes as the business grows. This is only the first house, and we definitely plan on having a lot more. So I'm sure that will entail a lot more work and time as it happens. But right now it's easy and it's natural because we live here. The business part of it intertwines itself in all aspects, but we love it and we're so excited about it that it's not an issue.
So you think, quite honestly, that your business partnership has enhanced your personal relationship?
Yeah, I don't think that a business partnership is right for all couples, but we have pretty opposite skill sets that work really well together in a business. We're not stepping on each other's toes. There's a pretty clear line of divide that this is what you're strong at and you handle, and this is what I'm strong at and I handle.
Is this the first time that you've gone into this business partnership in the time that you've been seeing him?
Yes, this was the first.
Have you been seeing him?
We have known each other for 6 years, and we've been together since we got back together for going on 3.
What do you mean since you got back together?
Well, after we broke up after graduation and got back together after that. So we were together for a while before that, and then after we got back together, it's been going on 3 years.
Okay. And would you mind sharing with our listeners how old you both are?
Yes, we will both be 26 this year.
You'll both be 26. You're in a business partnership. You got out of school, saw each other for a while, broke up for a while, got back together for a solid 3 years, spent 18 months in a long distance relationship, and now this past year living together in a business/personal relationship.
That about sums it up.
Okay. And it's thriving and doing better than ever.
Yeah, we're loving it. All aspects of this have been super informative and really fun to explore together. I couldn't imagine trying to do this with anybody else or by myself.
I understand. And I'm asking this of all of the women that I'm talking to today, and some of them had great answers for me, but others just didn't know what to say. I also gave this invitation to Michael to join us today. Was there a reason why he decided not to join us on this interview?
In kind of our business divide, he really handles a lot of the back end operations, and I really do a lot more of the front facing stuff. So that's where we're both comfortable. My background in PR and marketing makes me a lot more comfortable, on the camera and being recorded. So it's just that division of where we're strong in that we both respect.
And I respect that as well. Thank you so much. Jess, it's been a pleasure to talk to you today. I am very excited for you. Congratulations. It seems like one of the best remedies to thrive is to have a business relationship and a personal relationship at the same time, which is a very, very delicate balance. Do you think that going forward, it's going to be even better for you, even easier for you once the quarantine situations have been lifted?
Yeah, I think that we have a lot of knowledge that we didn't have walking into this. We understand a lot more of how we work in business and how renovating a house even works and the reasonable timelines. So we're super excited to move forward with this and see what else we can tackle together.
So we may very well be continuing this quarantine for a little while. I know the state of New York had quarantine until May 15th, and the same thing in the neighboring states. If it goes on, say, through all of May and June, are you optimistic in your relationship with Michael going forward? It will still continue to thrive?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we can still buy houses during this quarantine. We can still work on what we would like to work on. So we have a lot of projects to keep us busy, and it's things we're super excited about. So I think that makes it really easy to move forward.
That's really amazing. In addition to your business partnership, though, can you speak a little bit more towards the intimate, the personal relationship between the two of you and how it has thrived during this time?
I get to spend lockdown with my best friend. I mean, that's everybody's dream, is to just wake up every morning, see their best friend, have coffee on the porch with them. I mean, he knows everything that goes on in my life, and it's just been such a joy to be able to get to spend this time with him, just the two of us.
Are either of you leaving the house for any particular situation at all, or are you both really staying at home?
He does still have to leave. Environmental testing is an essential service, so he does still have to go and pick up samples. But, you know, we're both in our 20s, so we know we're not high risk. So we take appropriate steps, you know, hand sanitizer, hand washing, masks, being really conscientious. And we do our best to stay safe, but it's not something we're super worried about.
All right, that's very, very good to know. I appreciate that. Have you been out as well? You've been moving around yourself. You've gone out a little bit, taking precautions.
Yeah, a little bit. I'll run out and do grocery shopping. You know, I'll run and grab things for family members if there's a store that I'm closer to and they need something, and I'll drop it off on their doorstep. So a little bit here and there, but really only for things like, oh crap, we're out of milk.
I understand. Okay, terrific. Well, I think I have everything that I need. Did you want to leave our listeners with one more note and give them some advice for those that are struggling in this time?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that communication is key. It was definitely a challenge for both of us in the beginning to be so raw and open with each other. But when you're able to do that, I think you're so much better able to plan for success and figure out what the other person needs. And in all aspects of our relationship, we try to have somewhat of a plan moving forward, because I firmly believe that if you don't plan to succeed, you plan to fail.
Where can people find you if they want to hire you as a copywriter?
Yes, my website is jessicareillywriter.com, and that's JESSICAREILLY writer.com, or they can shoot me an email at jessicareilly60@gmail.com, and I would love to chat.
Jessica, thank you so much. I really appreciate the time here on our Everybody Needs a Little Push, Pushy Broad from the Bronx show, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been such a joy. I've loved talking to you.
Thank you so much.
Everybody needs a little push. Everybody needs a little push. Everybody needs a little push.
Welcome, podcast listeners. This is Ellen Stewart, the Pushy Broad from the Bronx, and this is Everybody Needs a Little Push. I put a question out there to all of my listeners and my podcast world. Are you thriving in your relationship during COVID-19? And I got a tremendous amount of responses, and even some husbands that were willing to sit with their wives to tell me how they felt about their relationship in quarantine. I am sitting here with a lovely couple, Clari and Damien, who actually turned out to be very close to me in New Jersey. We found out we were neighbors, and I found out that both of them are thriving together as a couple during COVID-19. I really am very excited for you to hear their story. I think it's adorable. Welcome, Clari, and welcome, Damien.
Hi everybody.
So, just to refresh for our listeners, Clari, can you tell me where you're living, what town, and what state?
Over here in New Jersey, we live in Kearney. It's a beautiful little town here. And actually, Damien was the one who got me out here because I used to live in Teaneck. So I was like, oh, okay, let's eat carne. And, we ended up miraculously finding a beautiful apartment here. And everything is history ever since because we've been married now a year. So it's been really awesome. So
you've been married a year. And Damien, how long were you dating before you got married?
1 year before. So in 2 weeks, we got a 2 year together.
So you were dating for a year and your anniversary is coming up? Is that
Yes.
Yes.
Well,
In Sunday.
Oh my God. What?
1 year in relationship, we married. So
wow, that's marvelous.
Me.
Marvelous. Come a little bit more into the computer so I can hear you. Terrific. Very good.
Okay.
So how long are you living together, Clary?
Oh, now it's a year and a half. So we moved in like January of 2019.
And Damien, can you tell me how long the two of you have been in quarantine now together? How long have you been living in quarantine?
We got it 1 week before we were sick. So we got it 3 months in quarantine. So
what you're saying is one of you contracted the virus or you both contracted?
Oh, no. We weren't sick with the virus. We had like sinus infection and we were not feeling too well. We had been out and then all of a sudden all these things happened. We were like, well, thank God we didn't have that because it's been crazy.
I see. So Clary, when was that you actually, so you both got sick with sinus?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you both have been living at home now for how many months?
Since the beginning of February, basically. So.
Wow. Since the beginning of February, this newlywed couple is living at home. And Damien, can you tell me how large your apartment is?
3 bedroom.
Yeah.
3 bedroom.
3 bedrooms.
Yes. With a living room and kitchen.
Okay, well, 3 bedrooms is kind of large. I talked to other couples that are living in a 1-bedroom apartment, not so large.
But we don't got a backyard. That is so hard for me.
3 bedrooms, so you can go to separate bedrooms and close the door, right?
Yes.
I need my space, right? I need my space. Leave me alone, right? Okay, so Clary, you were very animate in telling me that your relationship has thrived during COVID-19. Explain to me a little bit about why you think so.
For me, we had always had a good relationship, but this has been a really good way to test every possible problem that could come up. And I mean, from just our communication style to what we've been going through with our families to the stress of, integrating back. I think that's the hardest conversation to have as a couple. Like, when he started going back to work this past week, I was just like, oh my gosh, don't talk to anyone and just the internal stress that you go through. And of course, just being together all the time. I mean, thank God we have enough space where he can go into the room and there's a TV in there and I can watch TV here, or, I can go into my office and work on all the things that I do for work. And not be, in the way and be bothered as I'm typing or anything. So, we're able to have the space to move around in our apartment, but also we have been able to confront a lot of the challenges maybe a couple would see in 5 years as opposed to, the last 3 months where we could drive each other crazy. But, I think we have a good foundation and we've been able to communicate with each other about a lot of the things that have bothered us. I think something really good about Damien is he doesn't like to get into like shouting matches and screaming at each other. He really takes respect in walking away when he notices that he's getting upset or I'm getting upset and like maybe we need to take a 5-minute break and we'll come back and talk about this later. Because you can say a lot of things to each other when you're in that moment of, frustration that you don't mean and could really hurt your relationship.
Absolutely, no question. And you really said something very poignant there. You said to me, because you're in this quarantine situation and you've been really on top of each other for 3 months, it really means that you have to get to know somebody like you've been with them for 5 years, right? Because you're right on top of each other, no question. Yes, yes, I understand. So, Damien, would you agree that your relationship has strengthened during this time?
Yes, a good one. Sometimes we are so stressed, so I start to do something like when she say, "Oh, you are so hard for me," I go to make a bread, something to relax my body, you know.
So
Yeah,
cooking or baking.
Yeah, start from the ground, from the floor to make a bread, right? Or something like that. So I spend my time and my energy, you know. We don't got a backyard, so I need to do something in the house. So every time.
That's a wonderful thing. So, Clary, so you're telling me that you have a husband that when he's stressed out decides to bake bread? Is that what? Oh my God.
More specifically, he was driving me crazy about cleaning the house every 5 minutes, and our house is always clean, like we always pick it up. But he would start, you know, we have a little vacuum, he'd turn on the vacuum, he'd do this, he'd do that. And so I just got tired of it. I told him, why don't you go bake something? Like, go do something with your hands so you're not, you know, in my space trying to clean everything that's already clean. You know, because we're doing the things over and over again. He's like, oh, I have nothing else to do.
You know, I got a lot of energy. I need to burn that energy. So for that reason,
work out the energy. I understand that, but it's wonderful that a husband wants to work out the energy by cleaning and baking bread. I mean, my God, that is fantastic. I love that. Because most husbands many husbands want to work out their energy by doing the opposite, making a mess and eating everything in the house. But you want to clean and bake bread. I think that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
You got a good one there, Clara. There's no question. Amazing.
Yeah.
So, Clary, you're continuing to work from home now, right? You're still an at-home job, and you're lucky enough to still have your job, which is
yes. I'm very blessed, especially since I work at a nonprofit organization. So, you know, it was a lot of effort to make sure that financially I was able to stay working, because I am, you know, the principal person in the finance office as the bookkeeper. And then, you know, I'm working online as well. Now that I have all this time, I was like, well, I can start blogging again. I can start doing things again that I used to do when I had all the time in the world. So it's been fun to get, you know, creative and connect back with the website that I used to have and do a lot of other things. So.
And now that you're just beginning to go back to work, Damien, you must feel much more relieved that you're able to go out there, and it must have been hard being home for 3 months, not doing anything.
Yes. And now when I go to work, I try to don't be with a lot of people and using my mask, my covered hair, everything.
Yes.
But I work in the ice cream factory, so I need to wear all the time mask, hairness.
And protective gear. So you're kind of used to that protective gear because you work in an ice cream factory, which is, I think, an amazing job. It's like Santa Claus every single day. I love that. So, but you're always used to protective gear, obviously, being in operations and being on the line. I understand that. Yeah. But they are taking extra precautions, and that's wonderful.
Yeah, because a lot of people, we are more distance where we work.
I understand. All right, so this is a good thing. So I'm very glad that you responded to me and answered me, and I'm very, very glad that both of you came on today. And before we were going to record, Damien was going to tell us a story, because I understand that that Clary just kind of sprung it on him that he was going to be on with me today. So please, both of you, explain how this happened. Tell me what happened. I think I want to hear from both of you, because I think there's going to be two different.
When we called you yesterday, we were in the car. You know, we were taking care of some errands.
To my friend's house, right?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell it. You tell the rest. All right. So I got on the phone with you, and I was like, I need to make a phone call, and then I sort of sprung it on him, and then you can.
And he said, oh, we got a meeting tomorrow for the blogging. I say, okay.
Yeah, we just have a little meeting. We're going to talk about, marriage during COVID-19 and what you do and how we got through it, how we feel about it. So it was really funny because he was very surprised. I was like, yeah, you got to wake up. She's on the phone with both of us.
So the time when you asked me for all the information, everything, I said, okay, I am in the blog too.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, you're in this too. That's it. You're in it. You're absolutely in it. Well, I thought it was really intriguing, and I really think it's very important for people to know what's going on because everybody's thinking the same thing. And I need to tell you both that it's very nice to see that people are working together rather than apart. With all of the questions that I asked, the biggest response I got were that couples were thriving rather than falling apart. And that's very hopeful to see.
Yeah.
It's very hopeful to see. And the two of you are together. You have no children, right? You have there are no pets at this moment, right? Just the two of you two. All right. So what have you been doing, or what did you do in quarantine to keep it alive for you and to keep it going? How did you rekindle the romance?
Well, it's hard because you're around each other all the time. But one thing that has very much helped us, and we're always going to talk about it, is HelloFresh. We ended up starting a HelloFresh order right before quarantine started. And it sounds funny, but every night before we, eat, we obviously have to cook. And it's really helped us to bond during that time, whereas every other moment of the day, we can kind of be like on our iPads or on our phones, kind of in our own world or in our own space. That really forces us to bond together, to talk to each other. Even if you're mad, you still want to eat. So it was nice to really have that practice where we would have something that we did every night together, and I think that the reason why, in my opinion, that you're getting better, viewing of it, I feel like we're spending more time with each other. The hardest part of our relationship, even if we live together and everything, we didn't see each other for most of the day, for most of the week, except when we would eat, go to sleep, and wake up, and now people are together all the time, and it's really, we can see each other for who we are. We're really getting to know each other. Experiences that would have taken a lifetime for us are now happening within the span of 3 months. So it's beautiful. I really love it. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah. And the other thing, she started to know my friends and my family. I am from Argentina, so we call a lot of friends from Argentina and from Spain. So we start to contact with new people, see how we work. Because it's little different the style what we're talking with my friend to what the friend what they living in USA.
Yes, and that's really good. I mean, even though we're not really socially distancing, we're just physically distancing. Right?
Yes.
We can still see each other and do things. And I hear that you're from Argentina. Is there a little message that you would like to say in Spanish to maybe some of the Spanish couples out there that are getting themselves together and thriving through COVID-19? Is there a special message you would like to give them in Spanish and how to keep your relationship together during this time? Please, go ahead.
Okay. Tienen que estar más unidos y buscar la forma de unir las cosas, ver qué hacer para hacer los dos juntos y todo.
Para mí, buscarse, sí. Oh yeah, he's basically saying that you have to look for a way to come together and understand each other during this time and be patient with each other. You only have each other at this moment, and that's the most important thing. So, yeah.
That's absolutely wonderful. I could not have said it any better. And realizing that this is what matters. This is what's really important, no matter what.
Yes.
And the love and the care that you have for each other, and that the two of you are in this together, taking care of each other, and that is certainly the most important thing.
Yes.
Is there a final message that you would like to leave our listeners?
Just, love each other, have patience and find hobbies that you can do together and even hobbies that you can do apart, like baking, something that will help you feel as an individual fulfilled, but also remembering that you guys are, taking care of each other. And I always remember the moment that Damien met my mom, and my mom told him something really funny. She's like, please take care of my daughter. And he was like, who's going to take care of me? And ever since then, it's always been like, we must take care of each other. It's not one or the other who is in charge of that, So.
That's right. And it's not a masculine thing or a feminine thing or a husband's job or a wife's job. It's your job together as a couple.
Yes.
Yeah, what we think is both we need to do everything.
Yeah.
If I need to fix some tool, she needs to help me out with the tools. If we need to clean up, both we need to clean up. So everybody needs to together, everything. Fix the house, clean up, everything together.
Right, which means, Clara, you have to learn how to bake bread.
Yes.
I'm learning, actually.
Yes.
It's so cool.
And she teach me with my English because before it was war. So now I start to learn better English. And
yeah.
So over these last 3 months, you're improving your English as well. So
yes.
You're learning something new. That's really, really great. Very good. Well, I'm very glad that you are with me today, and I'm glad that you're close by because I'm expecting baked bread and ice cream. Okay.
Yes, you will. You'll get it.
So thank you very, very much. I'm really thrilled to have you here. Stay healthy.
Yes.
Be well. Take care of both of you. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Everybody needs a little push. Everybody needs a little push. Everybody needs a little push.
Hi, podcast listeners. I'm glad to hear you and to see you back. I've had so many responses to my question. Are you thriving as a couple during COVID-19? And I have many wonderful women that have responded to me, some that are newlyweds and some that have been married for quite a few years. And I want to talk to those women right now. Sometimes I think it's harder to thrive in that situation when you've been married quite a few years. So I'd like to introduce to you a woman from Quebec, Canada. Her name is Adria, and she has been married for 20 years. Let's see what she has to say about how her relationship is thriving. Good afternoon, Adria. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. Helen, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. So you've been with Keith for how many years in total?
30 years. We started dating when I was 18.
Wow. And now you're married for 20 years. And have you been in the same house or you've moved several times?
Oh, we've moved a couple of times, yes.
And now are you living in a home or an apartment?
Yes, we live in a home with our 2 children.
So you have 2 children as well.
Mm-hmm.
How old are they?
18 and 15, 2 boys.
That's amazing. And because of the stay-at-home directives, how long have you all been home together?
So I know exactly how long, because we were supposed to go on vacation to Florida on the 12th of March, and we canceled our trips. So we've been together at home since the 12th of March.
So your 2 children and your husband at home together. Is the house big enough to give everybody some space?
Yes, fortunately, yes.
Well, that's a good thing.
Yes.
And you and your husband are working from home?
Yes, we both are.
And what do you do for a living?
So I'm a nurse and an anxiety coach. So I actually do both of those things from home right now.
So you're not out in the field in a hospital? That's not the kind of nursing you do?
No, I'm not.
Explain to our listeners what kind of nursing you do.
Yes, so I work for basically a temp company. So we do temporary placement of nurses and orderlies and LPNs out on the field who go into the hospitals and community centers and elderly centers. And so I hire them and I train them. And we also do private cases where people need at-home help. And so I will evaluate their needs. That's the kind of stuff that I do.
So you're not in harm's way when it comes to the virus at this point?
I'm not. No, I'm not.
Okay. All right. And Keith, what does he do?
So he's a financial advisor.
And he's working from home. He must be having a tough time right now.
But actually, because he is pretty good at what he does, he hasn't had clients with too many losses. I mean, everybody has had losses, but he's doing pretty good. His clients are just calling to get, more information, but he's doing all right.
Wow. So his clients are holding their own. That's a very good thing. That really is. And how long have you been an anxiety coach?
About 3 months now.
So you've just started a brand new business.
Right.
Is this something you were planning before COVID-19?
Oh yeah, I was planning it before, but this kind of just propelled me.
Explain that a little more.
So I've been on the journey my entire life. I've dealt with anxiety basically from childhood. And in the past 4 years or so, I have really focused on my inner self. And through this journey, I have gotten to the point where I no longer feel anxiety. I mean, everybody feels a little bit of anxiety, but I don't have that generalized anxiety feeling. I don't have panic attacks anymore. I don't feel depressed for days on end. And it's because of all the work that I did. And I only realized that last summer I went on a retreat in upstate New York, and I realized how far I've come. For some reason, that retreat did it for me. And I was like, you know what? I think maybe I can help other people do this. Instead of it taking 5 years, maybe I could do it for them a little quicker,
I understand. So
yeah.
you started that, and you're starting a brand new business, and now that you're home, you've been able to give it some attention.
Exactly. Yes.
So you specialize on anxiety coaching?
That's right. Anxiety, depression. Yeah. And it's basically through cultivating self-love.
Based on your own personal experiences?
Exactly. Yes.
I see. That's a wonderful thing to do.
Yes. And I think that right now people are really so anxious, and I want to help people because I know what it's like to be there.
Well, you also have this nursing training.
Right.
And
exactly.
So it lends itself to being able to help people and to do the right thing, and to train other nurses as well. So that's a wonderful thing.
Yes.
So how are you cultivating that coaching business now that you're in quarantine? What are you doing?
So of course I'm doing some continuing education on it. I'm learning a little bit more about how the mind works, and I've done lots of meditation courses and courses on self-love. And as far as trying to get myself out there to be of service, I'm going on some anxiety Facebook pages, groups, and I'm just giving in my 2 cents and trying to get people out of the mindset of that they're doomed to be anxious all the time. Because that is basically what is out there, is people think that, okay, it's like having diabetes, I have to take medication. So I do that. And every once in a while, somebody messages me and said, oh, what you're saying is really inspiring to me. Can you help me? And so I do. And I reduced my rates so that it's more accessible to people because of COVID. I know everybody's having a hard time right now, and I want to be of service to as many people as I can.
So you're taking clients virtually?
That's right.
And because you specialize in anxiety and depression, especially during this time, do you want to give our listeners any general tips for de-stressing?
Yes, sure. When it comes to, it's basically a mindset shift, okay? If we're talking about being in a panic state, for instance, you start thinking about COVID. You went out to the grocery store, you get back home, and all of a sudden you start feeling like, oh my God, I have it. I have a tickle in my throat. And people who have generalized anxiety, that kind of stuff happens. The mind just has one little click and it goes all the way down the rabbit hole. So the first thing you have to do is take a deep breath. I know it sounds super cheesy, and I know it sounds like, yeah, sure. But you got to take the deep breath, as deep as you can, and you got to hold it. You hold it for 3 seconds, and you keep doing it until you calm down. It's guaranteed you will calm down. And then at that point, when you get to the point where your mind calms down a little bit and your nervous system has relaxed just a little thing, you can start to talk yourself out of it. So what you do is, instead of focusing on, yes, I'm sick, you dig deep, you hunt that thought out, and you replace it with another thought. Like, what is the likelihood of me having this? And what is the likelihood of me feeling a tickle 5 minutes after it being exposed to it?
Exactly right. Exactly the same way I would coach as well. One of the first episodes I did the beginning of April was about COVID-19, coping with your current reality. And I always talk about, Pushy Broad from the Bronx always talks about change the way you think about something, which means put a different idea into your head, which will change the way you feel about something, which will change the way you behave. So
That's
it's
right.
Yes, which means cognitive change breeds emotional change, breeds a behavioral change.
Right.
So certainly we're both on the same page, and I understand that. So that is very good advice, Adria. So tell me, did you employ those techniques, staying home with your husband and your kids for 2 months in quarantine? How is that working out?
Fortunately, I was at the point where it's a little bit on autopilot for myself now, because I've done it for so long. And that, of course, I was triggered. They definitely triggered me. I have to say, at the beginning, I was really happy to be with everybody, because everybody's all over the place. I have one son that's in boarding school. That's a whole nother podcast we could do, the whole feeling of emptiness. And I went through a really hard time when he left. So I was happy to have him home on a regular basis. And my husband also works so much that having him home all the time was great for me at the beginning. And then, after 6-7 weeks of it, of course, they get on your nerves.
So what would your husband say the last 2 months were like?
What did he say? I think he would say it was pretty relaxed. We're kind of homebodies. Our lives haven't changed that much because of this. We're not like out and, at restaurants and, socializing all the time. We are more, the thing that we miss the most is seeing our family and seeing our friends, right? So, having people over, it's that kind of stuff. But I think he would say that it's been pretty peaceful.
Were there ways in which you decided to change things up a little bit, to make it a little spicier in the house, or to relieve some of the boredom? We're very interested to know.
Yeah, sure. There was one thing that we did, I mean, for me and him, not my children. Basically, with my children, all we did was watch movies. We watched a lot of movies. And another thing that we did a lot with my kids that I haven't done in years, is sit down, all 4 of us, and have lunch and supper together every single day. Because my kids are both elite hockey players, and so supper time almost never happened. I would say for the past 10 years. So that was really something. So that's why I feel like I can't complain about COVID, because I'm getting all the stuff that I had wished I had for so many years.
So when this is all over and when it eases up where you are, what will that look like? Will the kids be gone? What will it look like?
It depends on when it happens, because school ends in the beginning of June here. So I know one of them, because one of them goes to school here and one of them goes to school in another province. The one that goes to school here for sure is not going back to school. They already advised us. And so what's going to happen with him being here, they are both homeschooled. Actually, that's not what it's called. I'm not teaching them. they're being taught online by their schools. So from 9 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon, they have school. So that's another reason why things are pretty smooth. They're very busy.
They must miss the hockey, yes?
Yes, they miss. Well, the hockey, fortunately, was the end of the season when this all started. So it ends in March. So, but they miss their friends. They miss their friends a lot, especially the 18-year-old. He misses the girls.
Oh, right. I forgot.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Oh, my God. Yes. Well, you and I talked about a couple of other things in our session together before we went on the air. And that was the fact that I also asked the question about how are your children behaving around an abundance of video gaming, right? We talked about that. Do you think that your sons, who are certainly of that age, are overdoing it when it comes to video gaming in your house during the quarantine?
So this is, COVID is not the thing that brought up video games for sure in our household. Video games, even worse, the cell phone. This is a constant issue with our kids. And with this, of course, they have a lot more free time. I would have to say the 18-year-old is not as interested in video games as the 15-year-old. Although now as time is passing, he's starting to increase the interest in it because he's getting bored. So we're pretty strict. My husband and I are pretty strict when it comes to almost everything. When it comes to video games and their phones, they have very limited time. They don't have data on their phones. Wi-Fi is only available to them in certain amounts of time during the day. It starts at 11 and it ends at 9 p.m. So they don't have unlimited access to it. They're not allowed to be walking around on their phone like this. They're also not allowed to be locked up in their rooms on their phones. And as far as the video games, right now, because of this, we give them 2 hours each in the evening after all their stuff is done.
Boy, oh boy, Adria, that's wonderful, and it's specific, and I'd like our listeners to make note of that. Very specific guidelines for children and 15 and 18, and they respect those boundaries. Yes, they expect.
They don't like them.
They don't have to like them.
No,
they just have to.
They have no choice.
Respect and obey them.
Yes, they have no choice.
That's a wonderful thing. That's a list of specific directives when it comes to how long and what they're doing. And I'm sure that you're looking, especially at the 15-year-old, with the appropriateness of the video games he's engaging in as well.
Yes, of course, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's nice that your 18-year-old is living by the rules as well. So how do you think they find being parented, especially the 18-year-old that was out of the house and now he's back in the house? I mean, my goodness. How do you think they're finding this, oh my God, mom and dad are underfoot all the time situation? Have they expressed different behavioral changes? What's going on there?
Yeah, so they're pretty used to it. That's basically the way we always are. We're always on their case. And I can't say that it's always the best thing to do, but they're not surprised by the way we're acting right now, because it's basically the way we always are. But you did touch on something. The 18-year-old is having a harder time than he did before. So he's been away from home since September of 2019, and he came back for all this time now in March, and he is 18 and he's been independent all this time, and he's definitely pushing back a lot more than we're used to. So we keep reminding him that yes, we understand you've been independent. Well, independent at a boarding school where everybody does your laundry and cooks for you. So that's not really independent. So we tell him, look, we're here, we pay your bills, you're under our roof, you have to follow our rules. We understand you're getting to a point where you're going to be independent, but.
So does he have specific chores? Has he learned
Yes.
to do his laundry, and has he learned to clean his room?
Oh yeah. Oh, he's learned how to do his laundry like when he was 11 or something.
11, right? Okay.
I have to say they know what to do. They don't do it. I have to always tell them to do it. This is my biggest issue.
They know what to do. Yeah.
They know how to do laundry. They know how to cook. They know how to clean. So now since they've been back, every other week they have to do the house cleaning.
I see. So good.
Together.
So they have some responsibility.
Yes.
So that's marvelous. So hopefully things are beginning to slowly open up, just like every place else. Yes, we may have another month of this, and then maybe by June things will open. And in Quebec also, things are slowly opening up.
Very slowly.
In some ways, you know, with masks and gloves and the whole thing, just like the rest of the world.
Right.
But you are not required to go back to work yet, and neither is your husband?
No.
Yeah, because people won't see you, so you can't go out there if nobody's
right.
Right, I understand that. So do you think that during this time you and your husband have taken some things away with you that will continue to be a boost to your marriage?
Yes, for sure. We have, I spoke to you about this, that I brought up to my husband that I would like, when things go back to normal, that we set out a time every single week that he could take a half day and we can be together alone without the kids around while they're at school or we're at work, wherever they're going to end up being in the future. And we can just either sit at home, do nothing, go out, or whatever it is. Although, I mean, it is going to be challenging now because of, I don't know what social life is going to be like, right? So, but we have done that. We'll see what happens, but we have talked about that.
And I understand, and it means that you both have to consider that important. And what this virus has done is make us really reassess what is important and what quality time is all about.
Absolutely.
And to learn from this in every sense of the word. So that's
for sure.
So you are a new anxiety coach, and if people want to get in touch with you, Adria, how do they do that?
So they can go on Facebook. I have a Facebook page. It's called Anxiety Self-Work. So if they just go into the Facebook, go into the search and put Anxiety Self-Work, you're going to be directed to my page, or you can email me with my first name, but it's my last name too. So.
All right, well, we'll put that up on the web so people can reach you. Can they join your Facebook page for free? Is it free to join you? Or
yes.
Become a friend or become a part of the group? It's a private group?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
So they can do that as well. All right.
Yes.
Is there something you want to leave with us today? You want to leave our listeners with something special in terms of relationships or marriage or kids? One message you want to have for our listeners?
Sure. When it comes to kids, be consistent and remember, you are in charge. They are not. And when it comes to marriage, whatever it is that's going on with your marriage, and if it's not working well, look within yourself before you start blaming him or her. And then see what you can change in yourself before you give up.
That's very good advice from a woman who has been with her partner for 30 years and married 20 years, and you're still going strong. So yes. I certainly would take your advice. Thank you so much for being with us today. I really appreciate it. I hope your family stays healthy and well.
Thank you. You too.
This is Ellen Stewart, the Pushy Broad from the Bronx, saying thanks for listening. And remember, everybody needs a little push.
From the pushy broad from the Bronx, New York.